Hey, everybody. Dr. Nicole here. Welcome to the Healing Space. These are my Monday night chats where we have inspiring, life-changing conversations about things that really are important to you. And so, if you saw the flyer tonight, we are going to talk about how to relieve stress and manage your emotions. All right. Can I get a thumbs up? Give me somebody in the chat, a heart, something, so that I know that this is something that is really important to you, right? We want to talk about stress and we want to talk about those emotions. But first of all, can I tell y'all, I am so excited to be doing these regular chats with you all. So, I always like to go live, but sometimes I still like to surprise you with a sporadic live here and there. But I also wanted to get back to having a more regular routine so you know when to expect the lives. And you can also let me know some of the topics that are important to you that you want me to focus on. Okay? So today we are going to be talking about how to relieve stress and manage your emotions. And I'm going to give you some tips on things that you can actually start doing. That's always my go-to thing. Like, I want to make sure you have things that you can actually start doing today. Okay. So one of the things is, we always talk about stress, burnout, and all of those things. Stress is, you'll hear me say this over and over again, it's a perception. The thing that might be stressful to you might not be stressful to somebody else. The thing that's stressful to somebody else might not be stressful to you, because it's all about how we experience it and how we perceive it and how we interpret the situation. So a lot of helping you to relieve stress is not even so much what somebody else is going to do, right? It's all about the mindset and making the shift internally inside of you as far as what you can do to make things seem less stressful to you. Okay? So one of the first things that you can do to help relieve stress is do an assessment. That's right. Do an assessment. Think about your life as a plate, right? We always use this phrase that we have so much on our plates. And think about all of the stuff that you have on your plate, right? That you feel like you currently have on your plate. And think about how you want your plate to actually look. So some of us, we have plates that, like, I don't know what your favorite cuisines are, but some people go to the buffet and they just pile everything on their plate. They pile everything on their plate. And usually what happens is buffets make money because people pile all that stuff on their plate. They can't ever eat it all. They can't digest it all because it's just too much. And sometimes usually you feel full before you even dig in because you see too much on your plate, right? So if you are somebody that right now on your plate, you have to do an assessment and see what's going on. Where's your time going? Are you spending a lot of time doing things you don't like to do? Do you need help in certain areas? Are you spending a lot of time doing a lot of running around, right? Or preparing for things and not really having enough time or enough on your plate of things that you actually are fulfilled by, feel invigorated or passionate about, right? So you have to do an assessment of what's on your plate. And like literally, you could just do a visual. You could imagine like what's on your plate that's draining you and what's on your plate that is actually giving you the things that you need, right? This sustaining you in terms of your energy. And once you figure that out, right? If your balance of what's draining you to what's pouring into you is not right, then you need to look at, that's the second step. What do you need to take off your plate, right? And that could be a long-term goal because you can't necessarily take everything off your plate right now. But it can also be something that by you having that assessment and that plan in your head, it helps you to feel like you're doing something about your stress. And that in and of itself will make you feel like you're reducing your stress. Let me fix the light so I can see you guys good. Okay, so Once you assess your plate, you start to make that long-term plan. You also want to be able to do things day to day. You want to have that balance of what's pouring into you versus what's draining you and taking energy out of you. You want to make sure that the scale is tipped towards what is pouring into you. So what are the things that you can do on a day-to-day basis to help you cope better? One of the number one tools is exercise or movement or doing something where you actually get your body involved in it. Because a lot of times, especially these days, a lot of us are stressed out, not necessarily because we're doing manual labor, but because we're overthinking, our minds are on go, we're worrying, we're in anxiety state, and we need to get out of that. We need to be able to actually move our bodies, be more focused on the present, and stop worrying so much or stop ruminating about the past, right? So exercise, moving your body. Some examples: taking a walk, going for a run, stretching, doing yoga, going to the gym, right? All of those things are things that actually, because your body is involved, your blood is flowing, you're starting to get those endorphins, released and they make you feel good and happy. Those things actually relieve stress for you. Okay? So if you're just joining, thank you, thank you, thank you. We were talking about stress is a perception. When you do an assessment of what's on your plate, you start to learn what you need to take off and what you need to put on, right? Things you want to put on your plate are the things like I just mentioned: time to be able to exercise, to focus on the things that you want to do, whether it's in your personal life, your professional life, or whatever. Okay? The other thing that you want to be able to do as far as stress, like what stress does is it keeps you in a zone of you're not able to focus on anything but the crisis that's in front of you. So it's always just one step in front of the other. You never get time to really plan out and focus on what you really want to do for yourself. So one way to actually start to relieve your stress, once you start looking at what's on your plate, is like imagine and envision what you actually want things to look like for you. 6 months from now, 1 year, 12 months from now, even 5 years from now, right? And once you're able to imagine that, you start working and planning towards it. And the more you start planning towards those things, the more the less you have all of that sense of being stressed out and overwhelmed in the present moment, right? So the things I just mentioned, you do an assessment of what's on your plate. You figure out what you need to take off and what you need to put on. You make sure that you get some form of exercise or movement into your body, into yourself, so that at least every day, at minimum, you're walking, doing some kind of stretching, doing something that's more vigorous, right? Some sort of exercise. And then you're also looking at imagining, like sit back, close your eyes, and really imagine what it is that you envision for yourself 6 months from now, 12 months from now, even 5 years from now, right? And that helps you to have a more optimistic and hopeful attitude. So much of stress is like you feel bogged down, things aren't going right, you don't have time for yourself, but you also have to be able to get out of that by envisioning what you want for yourself in the future and start planning for that, right? The other big thing is making sure that you become more in touch with your emotions so that you can better manage your emotions, right? Kind of ties into one of my last lives, which was techniques for dealing with your emotions, because most of us, if we're going to be honest, most of us, what we end up doing is we end up suppressing our emotions completely and denying them or not acknowledging them and letting them creep up on us until that we get to the point where we explode. Have you ever had that feeling or that sense of like going from 0 to 10 like this, and you don't know where those intense feelings came from? And that's because you haven't learned the balanced way to manage your emotions. Because most people, if you're like most people, you're afraid of strong emotions like anger or being sad or being frustrated. So you push those all down, but you never learn how to manage them. And you know why those things go hand in hand with stress is because when you have a lot of pent up, unexpressed emotions, it leads to actually experiencing more stress, and you'll experience it in your body in the form of constant aches and pains, headaches, pains in other parts of your, stomach aches, gastrointestinal problems, insomnia, right? So it doesn't matter that, like, you might think, oh, you don't have any emotions that you're dealing with. But if you end up suppressing them like that, it's going to come out in some way in your body or even, in your mind mentally. Like you'll be feeling worried a lot of the time. Okay? So learning to be okay with feeling those emotions, but finding healthy ways to start to manage them is so, so important, right? A few ways that you can start to be more comfortable and start managing your emotions in a healthier way is, one, to start writing them down. That can be one of the safest ways because you don't have to worry about, it can be scary sometimes to share what you're thinking or feeling, especially if it's really intense, to share it with somebody that you're not sure how they're going to receive it. So one of the first things you can do is to actually just kind of get a pen and paper, good old notebook, pen and paper, and write down the intense feelings or the feelings that you notice yourself having in certain situations. And then you can go so far as to write down, like, what triggered those feelings? What made you feel? Why do you think you're feeling that way, right? What actually, hey, Coach Kofia. Yes, we're right up your alley talking about managing emotions and how so many of us end up suppressing our emotions and we never figure out how to deal with them. So one safe thing to do to start off with is to start writing them down and writing down how you're feeling and also trying to make connections around what might have triggered you to feel that way. So you can start to understand the patterns in yourself. Like, are you getting triggered at work? Is it certain things that friends are doing? Is it in your relationship? Is it random people, what is it? Road rage. Like, is it certain things that are happening outside that are triggering you? And once you have those connections, you better understand that you can start to have a better strategy for like a healthier way. Because none of us wants to walk around triggered all the time. But we have to understand why we're being triggered before we can even learn to better cope with it, right? So writing them down is one way. And I mentioned that sometimes it can feel risky to reach out and talk to somebody, to either talk to somebody where you just want to vent and share your feelings, or to actually talk to the person that is the one that's like the reason you're feeling that way from your perspective. Either way, that is a healthier step, right? It goes above and beyond just writing it down and keeping it to yourself, but it goes into the realm where you can actually start learning to resolve some of these issues that are causing the feelings that you're having. So you should always, like, one of my tips here for relieving stress is to have a social group, whether it's a friend group or a support group or a group of friends or like professional women. Like me personally, I'm in this group, Coach Kofia joined us live, where we are a group of women in business, and we share with each other how we're coping and how we are progressing and dealing in our business and in our personal lives, right? So that is such a relief because we don't have to walk around with all of these feelings pent up. We don't know, like, should we tell anybody, or am I the only one feeling like this, right? Yes, you got to get your tribe. You have got to get your tribe, right? And that's a whole other video. Like, how do you find your tribe? We're going to help you do that in a future live. But finding a way to actually express these feelings that you might be having, that you used to keep pent up or suppressed, is so, so key. And it can be a risk, because anytime you share how you're feeling with somebody, you are making yourself vulnerable and you're taking a risk. Will they understand me? Are they going to judge me? Are they going to think I'm weird? Are they going to say, oh my God, I don't want to be around her anymore, right? Those might be some of the things going through your head as you're contemplating, or as you're trying to decide if you want to share any of what you're feeling or what you want to share, right? But I can guarantee you, this is my one guarantee to you, every time you take more and more of a risk to put yourself out there, and I'm not saying to do it like indiscriminately where you just find any old body and start telling all your business. Like, no. If you're doing that, then I need to back up and talk to you about boundaries. But I'm talking about if you find yourself, each time you find some people or a group or a person that you feel like you can trust a little bit, and you test it, you put yourself out there a little bit, you will find yourself actually, it becomes not even about that person. It's about you feeling more comfortable and confident in yourself. The more you allow yourself to be vulnerable and put yourself out there, you start to feel more confident. Yes, and as Kofi said, we are not careless with it, right? That's a whole other discussion, because you don't want to have no boundaries where anybody you see, you feel like you can relate to them and you want to tell them your whole life story. No. And when I talk about like sharing some of yourself with people, I'm not even talking about going back and telling trauma stories. No. I'm talking about like when you're struggling with something in the moment and you could use some help and some perspective and some support. You got to find some way to express and share that with people. And like I said, the more you do that, the more you will start to learn to trust yourself and feel more confident, even in your ability to judge the character of other people. I know I'm going deeper than I expected, than I had planned to. But it's really like when you get to the point where you can trust yourself and your intuition and how you judge other people and who you determine is safe to share and be vulnerable and talk to, that's like a whole game changer as far as in your relationships and in your life personally, right? And it helps you to manage your emotions, because you're not keeping things, like, we got to be serious as women. We are not built to have all this stuff pent up inside of us, because a lot of us will end up having all kind of illnesses and menstrual problems, aches and pains, digestive problems. Like, that's all of that stuff. Do you know that they say the gut is the second brain? Because all of what's going on with you emotionally is going to somehow come out through your body, and how you experience it in your body, which is why we got to learn to relieve stress and manage our emotions in healthier ways. Yes, Kofi, it's so good. Yeah, I ask myself, like, how deep do I want to go with my audience? But I know we're ready. I know we are willing to hear this, because the way things are right now, like you talk about, Kofi, the bitterness that a lot of people are carrying around, the resentment, the anger. It's not just about, a lot of times we walk around saying we have stress, but are we the ones? That's why I say stress is a perception. Are we the ones putting that stress on ourselves by holding on to so much emotional baggage that we are not willing to let it go? So I guess, I should back up all of those tips that I talked about in the beginning. Before you can even do those, you have to get to the point where you ask yourself, are you willing to make the decision to let some of this go? Really, like I can tell you from experience that that's the key. It's a decision. Because we could tell you all of these tips and everything, but if you still in your unconscious have decided you want to hold on to being bitter, angry, jealous, resentful, not wanting, the best for others, or feeling not wanting to break out of that negative view of yourself, then all the tips in the world are not going to help you with that. Okay? So tip number 1, give yourself permission to drop the cape. And you all know I just did my drop the cape, pick up the crown challenge. And that really was about dropping the Superwoman cape. But part of the Superwoman cape is carrying around baggage that's no longer serving you. But that only you can make the decision to drop it and let it go. Okay? All right, y'all. I am so happy to go back to the healing space chats, inspiring and life-changing conversations that we need to have. This is every Monday at 7 o'clock. And listen, you guys, go to the link in my bio because I'm having my next masterclass next Monday, March 21st at 7 p.m. You know I don't do my masterclass all the time, so once I do it, you want to make sure you get in. Or you can go to www.theblissworkshop.com, theblissworkshop.com. My masterclass, Banish Burnout and Build Bliss. We go deep, we go hard into the mindset, as well as the skills that you need to really let that baggage go. Because the stress will never go. Your plate is always going to be full if you're carrying that extra weight that only you decide that it's it's no longer your time to carry it. Okay? All right, y'all. So thank you so much. I will see you next Monday. I'll be going live before that, but I'll definitely be seeing you next Monday. And remember, every Monday it's the Healing Space chats with Dr. Nicole, life-changing and inspiring conversations that we need to have. All right, take care, you guys.